we promoted the first potential transfer we're going to talk about, as saying, West Ham fans, which former Spurs centre-half would you like to see at your club? We got a pretty emphatic response, I have to say, on text Crookie. But who might end up there?
Yeah, there's certainly no love lost between the two clubs, is there? But Eric Dier is the name that's being mentioned. Obviously, former Tottenham defender, former player there briefly under Nuno Espirito Santo during his short reign in charge. He's at Monaco at the moment, obviously having left Tottenham to go to Bayern Munich, and did well in the Bundesliga. I can understand why West Ham would be interested. I don't think it's gone much further than them being sounded out as to whether they would take Dier this window, but he's obviously proven in the Premier League. He brings that leadership, which I think is badly lacking in the West Ham dressing room at the moment. So definitely one to keep tabs on. He's not the only centre-back they're looking at. I've mentioned Charlie Cresswell, who's doing well over in France, the England under-21 international a couple of times. And I'm told there's one or two other names on their wanted list as well. The big story I think that we're going to be tracking out at West Ham in the next couple of weeks is Lucas Paqueta. Yeah. Obviously, they've rejected one offer from Flamengo. It looks like he's keen to go back to Brazil. And actually, it's been suggested to me this morning that West Ham officials are fearing he could even go on strike and refuse to play in the upcoming Premier League game this weekend against Spurs in order to try and force through this move. So a little bit of a repeat of the Alexander Isak stroke Johan Wissa situation from the summer, potentially.
Yeah. Just on the Eric Dier thing, Coisty, would you take a punt? I mean, they are desperate. They are desperate for central defence.
I'm going to tell you right now, excuse me, guys, but he would not be my first choice or anywhere near my first choice at this moment in time. There's no doubt about it. He's been quality. Of course he has. I don't know. And we'll hear, because the guys will messages in. I don't think right now they need something, West Ham, but I'm not sure it's Eric Dier.
Okay. Conor Gallagher at Spurs, is that just about done, Crookie?
Yeah, he was flying over last night into this morning. There's a medical scheduled to take place today. We broke exclusively on talkSPORT. The Gallagher has agreed a 5.5-year contract with Tottenham. The fee is 40 million euros. This came out of nowhere yesterday afternoon, because when I was checking on the situation yesterday lunchtime, it was still Aston Villa very much in the driving seat. Tottenham, I don't think, could really advance their interest at that stage. Then they found out Rodrigo Bentancur was going to miss the majority of the rest of the season. Clearly, that's prompted them into action. And I think this is a good signing for Spurs. Again, I'm going to get accused of anti-Tottenham here, but if I was Conor Gallagher at this moment in time, I think Aston Villa probably would have been a better career move. But fair play to him. Tottenham showed interest when he was at Chelsea. Obviously, it gives him the opportunity to move back to London. I think he believes he's pretty much a guaranteed starter at Tottenham. And the whole driving force between the reason he wants to come back to England is because he feels that if he's playing regularly in the Premier League, that gives him more of a chance of being on that plane for the World Cup next summer.
It's a funny one, Crookie. Jeff and I were talking earlier, and I think we're both kind of in agreement that we think Conor Gallagher will be an excellent signing for Spurs, particularly when they get their top players back, when they get their players of creativity, whether it's Kulusevski, Madison. I think Conor Gallagher could be a good fit in there. I want to move on, Crookie, if I may, to it seems like a never-ending saga of Marc Guehi.
Yeah, well, obviously this was always going to rumble on from when that move to Liverpool collapsed in the final hours of the summer transfer window. He's a free agent at the end of the season. We know he's not going to sign a new deal at Crystal Palace. That's pretty much the worst kept secret in football. So the big question is, does someone pull the cord in this transfer window? If anybody, I think, is going to sign Guéhi now rather than wait until he becomes a free agent this summer, it would be Manchester City. Obviously, they've got issues defensively with Ruben Diaz and Josko Guardiola in particular ruled out. And I just sense, speaking to people up in Manchester, that maybe that they might test Crystal Palace's resolve with some kind of formal offer this window. I think it's still going to take a hefty fee to prize him away because, of course, Palace have got European football in the second half of the season. They're in a good position in the league to challenge for Europe. And we know that Oliver Glasner doesn't want to lose his captain. But, yeah, I think this is one that could well develop over the course of the next few days and into the last couple of weeks of the window.
Crookie, I was reading this week, Marcus Senesi being sought by Juventus amongst others. I mean, Andoni Iraola must be so frustrated as the exit door at Bournemouth seems to be permanently open.
Yes, although, of course, he's yet to commit his future to the football club. He's out of contract in the summer as well, along with the likes of Oliver Glasner and Marco Silva. And at the moment, there's no clear indication as to whether he will stay at Bournemouth beyond this season. But you're right, they lost a lot of their key defenders in the summer. Obviously, Antoine Semenyo has gone to Manchester City, and Senesi, my understanding is, has turned down 4 offers of new contracts. So clearly he's not going to stay at Bournemouth. You're right, Juventus, one of the clubs monitoring the situation. Barcelona have been mentioned as well, and even Manchester United. And I guess if you are a Bournemouth fan, and Jeff, you'll know as well as anyone the journey they've been on, the fact that they are selling players to Real Madrid, to Liverpool, to Manchester City, and potentially now to Juventus or Barcelona, I think that tells you how far they've come. And it also tells you that if you are Bill Foley, the Bournemouth owner, and he does have ambitions to push for European football, it's difficult to keep players when clubs of that calibre come knocking, just in terms of potential incoming, because they're going to need to strengthen in this window. One player they are looking at is a midfielder from Ferencváros, Robbie Keane's club in Hungary, Alex Toth. There is competition for him from Lazio in particular over in Italy, but that's a deal that Bournemouth are trying to get done in this window.
Crookie, there's no doubt about it. Been absolutely outstanding, and you mentioned him harbouring hopes of European football. But at this moment in time, in terms of letting players go, do they just need to keep a wee eye on what's below them?
Not this season, I don't think. I think that win against Tottenham was massive, just in terms of putting points on the board and putting daylight between them and the bottom 3. Wolves have improved under Rob Edwards in recent weeks, but it's too little too late for them. I don't think Burnley have got enough quality, and I really do fear for West Ham, even though they're investing in this window. So I think the relegation picture is pretty clear. I do worry about Bournemouth next season, because we've got these new financial rules coming in where you can only allocate a certain amount of your turnover to wages and transfer fees. At the moment, Bournemouth's wage bill is much higher than the cap that will be allowed. So, they're going to have to balance the books accordingly. And I think this is where the financial rules break down. And I'm sure you've heard from Aston Villa fans this morning. They can't afford in this window to buy Conor Gallagher outright.
Yeah.
Atletico Madrid want to sell him. Tottenham have come in and they said, look, we're going to give you 40 million euros and we'll give it to you now. That's why he's going to Tottenham and potentially not Aston Villa. And I think for Bournemouth, they've probably reached their ceiling with what they did last season, in particular, a record Premier League finish. Because when those new financial rules come in, they just can't compete. They've got the smallest ground in the Premier League. Therefore, they can't generate the kind of revenues that clubs higher up the food chain can.
Yep.
Crookie, very briefly, when can we expect Carrick announcement?
I think this afternoon, Jeff. I'm told negotiations went on late into the night, but it is pretty much signed and sealed now. So Michael Carrick, the new interim manager of Manchester United for the rest of the season, and it looks like his coaching team will include Jonathan Woodgate, former Leeds defender, so maybe that might be a little bone of contention for some Manchester United fans, but obviously he was his number 2 at Borough and they've got a close relationship.
Yeah, he's a great boy, Woody. Thanks very much indeed, Crookie.
Thanks, Crookie. Have a good day, mate.
Cheers, guys.